Hey guys, VTech Blueberry Hill, thanks for coming back. So, as always the case, we're adding more wire. Since we switched over to propane tankless hot water heaters, it made sense to actually relocate one of them from, we were going to put one in the utility room, not to be a little bit of a challenge. It is a little bit tight in there, and we didn't want to compromise counter space and some cabinets and stuff. So, we have a closet on the other wall from the utility room, our master bedroom closet. It's way big, so we're just going to put the tankless hot water heater on the back wall. Actually, the propane line is going to go straight up the wall and connect to the system out there. So pretty straightforward, and an easy jog for the gas. The other ones are going to be, there's going to be a barbecue pit on the back side of the master, tankless hot water heater in the garage, and then the stove, and that's going to be it. We decided not to do the fireplace gas just because we never actually use it in our other house. We did use it just to start fires, but we can do that without any trouble. But anyway, so enough of that. We're adding a couple of small little extensions to the sockets, circuitry in the closet for the power for the unit. It makes no sense to run a separate wire just for that. It's not a high consumption thing. It's just a start on-off and a monitoring system on the tankless. So anyway, let's get started with that. I'm going to switch over to time lapse, and I'm just going to add in the wire and go from there.
So to supply power to the tankless hot water heater, I'm basically just adding one more little power leg from the blue box to the gray one back there. The gray one I bought at Lowe's. The blue ones are from Home Depot. I like the blue ones a little better, but regardless, they both work. I'm just adding, you can see the 2x4 has two wires up and down, it's power, and then another power to the gray box. Here I'm starting to wire up the there's going to be pendant lights hanging above the island. I remeasured everything and decided to plumb them up already so I can get all the circuitry done. Not a big deal. I had a wire sitting in there without plugging it into the boxes for this purpose. I measured it up where the island's going to be, so hopefully I got it centered and centered enough for 3 lights, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, pretty easy task. It was just running the wires through the boxes, connecting them up with the Wagos, and making that all work. So I did put all the lights in the kitchen. They're all on the same circuit just to make things easy. So it's one breaker for all of them.
Alright, so there you have it. So a couple extra fixtures. This is for the island. We're having 3 pendant lights coming down. Some kind of glass teardrop things. I think Angie picked those out already. They look really nice. They're going to be kind of a passive light, not direct crazy. I lucked out in the garage. I actually have a socket right where the tankless hot water heater is going, so we're going right in there. Don't have to plumb that or wire that. It's all ready for us. So thumbs up on that. Anyway, that's technically it for the wiring, except for the AC units, the disconnect, and for the air handlers. The wires are run. They're not connected to anything, not a box or anything. They're going to go directly into the unit and hardwire it into them. The disconnect I'm going to put on the outside walls under the overhang. Above my office, that's where the 2 AC units are going to go. So we're gonna put those in. I'm not sure I want to do those right now because we're going to get all that metal sheeting on the outside later on. So I'm not sure it makes any sense for me to mount those. Maybe I should mount them temporarily, one screw or something, and at least we'll have them up there. So we'll see. I'm thinking I want to do that. Just put them up there and make it all kind of legit. And here comes the rain. It sounds awesome in here right now, especially without any spray foam in here yet. But anyway, and here's whiskey. Did you get wet? Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk at you later. Appreciate you watching. And there you have it. There's the rain. We've got a couple of days of this, I think. Sounds so cool in here. It's kind of a muted tent. Definitely not as loud as in the shop. The shop is super loud because of the metal roof, but there's nothing underneath the metal roof, so there it is. All right, that wasn't too exciting. You can't even see the rain now.
So I'm taking care of a bunch of little loose ends here. I forgot to actually connect this vent pipe to the roof. This is in the game room. I just forgot to buy the little sleeves that connect the PVC into the rest of the piping, and this is the last piece that does the venting, and we're done. We're going to add to that, of course, when we have the AC units inside the attic. So we switched from a garage door opener that's hanging from the ceiling to a side mount. It's a little more expensive, but it's going to be a lot easier to put up. It actually works much nicer. It looks better, and I don't have any mechanisms under the ceiling. So I had to rewire for that opener, and here I am just plugging in the box. It is an outlet-based plug-in motor, so that's coming. It's coming with the door. The bad part, I'm sure I mentioned earlier, it's going to take 4 months for us to get the door. I don't have any clue why it's that long, but anyway, it is what it is. And here I'm doing the sensor wires. I had to relocate those. I had to pull those out of the ceiling and relocate them to the left and right side of the garage door opening. Apologies for the dark image. It's not as clear. I'm going to have to play with the GoPro to see if I can get the lighting better. They do have some settings on there, but this came out pretty dark. So the beauty of containers, you can run wire behind the 2x and all good. You don't have to drill too many holes. There's some holes at the front wall there, but pretty easy. This is a control wire that's going to be on a switch in the wall by the light switch, etc.
Hey guys, just let me do a couple of little things here. I did the island, the lights for the pendants. Fixed up the last vent tube, which I forgot to connect. I needed 2 sleeves to connect them. Did that. I added in the socket for the tankless. Pretty straightforward. That was just an addition to what I had. And the Wagos make it a lot easier to disconnect, reconnect, and then get it set up for the actual pigtail. You just saw me do the garage door opener control wires. Those for the sensors. We're gonna use a side mount motor. It was a little more expensive, only roughly about $80, because we're getting a 20-foot wide door, 8 feet tall. So it needed a little bigger motor, but it's I believe it's an 82W power lift something or other. I'll get details on that later, but it's side mount, and the control wires need to go to that. I wired in the plug where that will be plugged into. Power, I'm just using the socket for the garage to power that. And then the control wires you saw me do, that's for the sensors, for the knowing when the doors open or close, etc. And then the unit itself has switches on it to figure out whether it's in the up or down position, etc. And it looks pretty cool. A little more money than we want to spend. The door is quite expensive because it's large. The bad part is it's going to take 4 months to get it. Anyway, we'll see how it happens. That'll probably be one of the last things we do. I almost don't want to sheetrock this area here until we get the door, just to make sure we got all the electrical taken care of, but we'll see what happens. The gas, Bubba Gas, is coming on next Wednesday to do a walkthrough and figure out how much it's going to cost to put in a propane tank and run the outlets for the stove and the tankless hot water heaters. I want to do some of that just to save a few $100. The material costs are not insignificant. It's quite expensive stuff, but it all depends on what he has with respect to the cost. If it's reasonable, I might just get them to do everything and not worry about it at all. Because it is kind of a interesting. I've been researching for the last 2 days on how to plumb gas through the house using hardline or the black iron pipe, or CSST, which can go in the attic. It's a flexible stainless steel piping, which has been around for 30 years, 40 years. So that's what everybody uses nowadays. Anyway, some black iron on top of that, but for the most part, a lot of people use the CSST, and we have to use larger lines since all our stuff is 3/4 inch. That means the supply is going to have to be probably 1 inch or maybe bigger from the propane tank. We'll see. So anyway, looking forward to Bubba's coming. So from Bubba Gas, we'll let you know what happens on that. That's this coming Wednesday. It's Wednesday right now, so that's in a week, and then we'll see where we get from that. Anyway, the rest of the week I'm going to probably work on the panel just for grins. It's going to take a while for me to plumb all that. I'm not looking forward to snaking the big thick wires through to the box. I have to get some PVC, plumb into the box, etc. But anyway, that's going to be fun to do, and it's kind of finalizing the circuitry, right? Of course, all the sockets and light switches can't go in until drywall, although I will make a few circuits live just so we can use them in the house. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll get back to you in a bit. See you. Hey guys, October 14th. So here we are. We're changing the plans a bit, a little bit. More supply. San Marcos plumbing supply place called me. Our tankless hot water heaters showed up. I just hung it to where I wanted it. I don't like it, so I'm gonna relocate it. I'm gonna show you how I'm mounting it. I already have one piece of wood up there. Doesn't take a whole lot. They're kind of heavy. They're big. I'll show it to you in a second. But basically, it's gonna center around on this stud, and I'm just doing this for additional support for side screws, top and bottom. So I'm just gonna put 4 of these in, and then I'll show you the tank holder is already hanging over here. Let me move that over so you can see it. There it is. Rod there. Pretty easy to install. I have the valves and already in place. They're not tight. They're just sitting there. And this is all basically a rough-in install because they're gonna have to sheetrock first, and then we're gonna rehang everything. But it'll be ready for all this stuff. So we're gonna plumb everything, make sure it's all legit. Get Bubba Gas out here on Wednesday to plumb the gas line. I may be doing that from here out, and they might be just doing the propane line, propane tank and line on the outside of the building. But anyway, we'll see how much they charge for that. If it's relatively okay, I'll have them do everything because I don't need to be doing everything anyway. It's a fairly nice unit. It's a 7.5 gallon tankless hot water heater. We don't turn things up too hot, so we're going to save a few bucks on that. And we have 2 of these same units, and I'll show the units in a little bit. Anyway, let's switch to time lapse. I'll hang it, and then I'll talk about the units themselves.
So basically, this just involved me making a couple of 2x4 supports. I'm just using 3-inch, 3.5-inch screws to go through the studs into the supports. So my father-in-law, if you see the I'll call them the supports between the 2x, he nailed those in, so not one of them is level with any other one. So just saying, whatever, it's funny. Anyway, that's all it took. Then you put a couple of screws in the center and you basically hang it, and once we come back to do the final install, we'll actually make better supports.
So that one's
so same repeat process for the closet. These are just 2 supports, then a couple of center screws, and bang, it's done. Then we'll come back and finish.
So a little bit about these units. These are the RL75IPs for propane for indoor use, and the vent is going to go straight out the wall. There's a 90-degree elbow with a termination kit for water and all of the stuff. It's going to exit right there. Gas is going to go, we're going to drill a hole straight out the side of the container and straight down. That'll feed the propane from the propane tank we're going to install shortly. And we have a normal plug-in cord because all it needs is control. And we installed a socket outlet yesterday just for this purpose, right in this corner. This is the closet for the master bath, so we're doing it here because I think we have plenty of room. This is probably my side, the smaller side. Angie's is the big side. And you know, clothes, blah blah blah. Don't have that much stuff, but we'll probably have cabinets in here and stuff like that for hanging clothes and other things. Make it more functional. So it's not going to be super fancy or anything. It's just going to be functional and good looking, kind of contemporary style. We'll see. Anyway, hopefully the RL75 IPs will do the trick. This is going to run our master bath, the utility, and I'm still questioning whether we're going to run the hot water to the kitchen. Probably not. It's better run directly from the actual garage. So it all depends on how easy it is to plumb it. It might be easier just going straight down here and running the hot water underneath the containers over to the kitchen. It's a long run, but so is the one from the garage. It's not quite even distance, but either one would work. We can do, since we have the sink on the island, just in the middle of the kitchen, we have to feed water supply from the underside. We haven't broke through the ground on those. You know, a couple more holes in the concrete going straight out the bottom of the container. That shouldn't be too bad, because it's only 2 lines. Cold and hot, and we'll be good to go. Anyway, more on that when we do it, and we'll see how far we get today and doing other stuff. Right now I'm going to switch over to doing what we're calling a full wall. Right by the stairs we're putting up boards, and on that we're going to glue 2x4s and other sizes of wood stained to make it look kind of ergonomic, whatever. Cool looking contemporary stained wood splattered on the board. If that makes any sense. You'll see. It's going to look good.
So this wall was kicking my butt a little bit. Drilling the holes, not a problem, but I was using screws that I had. I didn't buy new ones for going through wood to metal. And the container's not very thick, right? So I was stripping a ton of those. So I'm basically adding, I think it's like a 7-foot wide wall going straight up to the ceiling. The ceiling above my head, that's going to stay container. We're just going to paint that up, clean it up, paint it, and there will be surround for the stairway opening, wood that surrounds that to make it look nice, etc. But I was pre-drilling some holes here and using special screws or from wood to metal, and they have a fairly aggressive bit on them that bite through to the metal. But since the container metal, it's a little under 1/16 of an inch thickness, it's pretty thin. They would strip out once in a while, and so it was kind of a pain. And then you know, make another hole. But they're also Phillips heads, which are such a pain to use. You have to use force to pop them in there, and of course Phillips, they'll walk. So I love the Torx versions of screws. I've been using those, the construction screws with Torx, and they work fantastic. They don't strip, they don't move. You don't have to put a whole lot of torque on moving them into the hole. So anyway, I had what I had. I decided to use them. They're 3 inches long, which is overkill. I just needed about an inch long screw, but I wasn't going to go out and buy a $20 box of screws just for that. So anyway, this is the finishing touch here, and voila, we have the base for the what we call the feature wall. We have a whole lot of little 2x4 pieces we're going to stain and glue on here all in kind of a random fashion, so it should look pretty interesting. Anyway, should be fun.
We're going to start doing installing the main power to the panel for the house. We're moving along on that, I think. Once I get the main power in, doing the individual circuits shouldn't be too bad. I got everything labeled, so hopefully I know which circuit goes to where. And then we appropriately do the 20 amp and 15 amp breakers. Just for grins, we're going to do 15 for lights. For whatever reason, that's kind of like the standard. Even though we have 12.2, 12.3 wire all throughout the house for up to 20 amp circuits. But anyway, I'm disconnecting the main panel right now. I'll show you that. I'll time lapse it in a second. Sub panel, not main panel. And we're just disconnecting power. I've got some PVC I got to plumb from the wall up to the box. Secure that, put the wires through it. That's going to be, I think, a pain in the patootie, because I have to go, it's kind of a tight squeeze from the wall into the panel, and then I have to leave enough to go from the top, kind of like in a heart fashion, to the top of the breaker box. So we'll see how easy that is. Those wires are thick. They're 0.2 gauge, I believe, and so anyway, they're not fun to bend or play with. We got 2.5 inch PVC going from the floor to the box, and then we just run the wires on each side of the box, the breaker box, to the main power leads for the breakers. Anyway, hope you enjoy the next little fun bit. That's all we're doing today. This week I'm going to start doing the deck on top of the master, because that's where we're going to have to do our HVAC pipes and feeds to that side of the house. That's going to be the hard part. I still need to finish that so the roofers can come in, or the company doing the siding on the outside, because they can't do it obviously until I have a bit of the overhang done, so they know what they're doing with the walls. Anyway, appreciate you following. Let's go to time lapse and see what happens.
So here I'm disconnecting our little sub panel. We've had this installed for over a year. It was fantastic because I could have the welder and two normal 20 amp sockets running off of it. There's also a 30 amp which we never used. But anyway, basically you saw me disconnect the wires. I did check to make sure the main breaker panel was off, the disconnect at the pole. I did check it with a meter also, because you never know, right? So turn the breaker off, check it with a meter, and continue. So here I'm doing a little extension for the PVC, 2.5 inch PVC going from the floor to the box. The fun part was trying to figure out how to get the wires into the top and also snake it into the box. So near the end of this, you'll see me fitting them. I'm actually using a little trimmer that's normally used for metal work and stuff like that, to get rid of burrs when you cut something. Anyway, I figured it out. Wasn't too bad. Now I'm gluing it up, and then I shove it over the wire, and then we're gonna put a little straight extension going into the box. I had to make the sleeve a little longer, just so I could pull it down, the PVC down from the box, throw the wire into the box, and then lift the PVC into the box as well. Hopefully that makes sense. but you know, since the wires are sticking out, it's kind of hard to get them underneath the box and into the hole. So here, you saw me wiping out the wire lube for pulling the wire through there. I probably didn't need to use wire lube in that short section, but it sure made it a lot easier to do that. Anyway, measuring up, cutting a hole, then I put the extension in the hole, and I'm cutting the little extension, PVC extension that goes over the wire and into the connector in the box. So I'm just gonna glue the top part of the connector, you know, slip it over the wire, glue it, and I'm gonna leave the middle section unglued for now. And now I'm gonna snake the wires in there. They're pretty hard to handle because I had the lube on there. Throw them into the hole, and then slide the top section of the PVC into the connector in the box, and that worked pretty good. Of course, I put some glue on there too. I think I do that in a second. There it goes, and voila. And then I'm going to use spray foam for the bottom. It's still kind of exposed down there between the bottom of the containers and that, so I just spewed a bunch of this. It's for doors and windows.
Well, there you go. That to me was the hard part. Connecting these to the terminals, easy part. Put around one power on each side, and then the neutral in the middle, and then the ground to probably bar. I have 20, I believe it's 24, whatever it is. It's a QO neutral switch buses. Can't even talk. Anyway, that should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to put one here, one over here, so we could ground out the breakers on each side easily. Here's a common one as well. We'll see how we do that. Usually these are pretty full by the time everything's said and done, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, gonna switch to time lapse again and continue with the breaker box. I'll probably put on all the breakers I think we need. Actually, I'll probably do it by circuit. Nothing's gonna go live except for a few, probably in the garage, and I might have a receptacle or two inside just so we can power our tools. Makes sense, right? And then I'm gonna have a 240 volt, 50 amp somewhere around here. I'm gonna install that later. Probably right around this area, so I can do some welding, and maybe even use the 240 that's going into the utility for the dryer. So that makes sense to do plug in for the welder there too. I still have a lot of welding to do on the stairs for the banisters and the guardrails around the second floor, and the handrail around the open hole in the floor for the stairs. Anyway, thanks for following. We're going to switch to time lapse and continue with the breaker box later.
So fun part was bending all these wires in, putting them through the top. Negative goes in the center, 2 hot wires go on either side. There you see me putting the antioxidant stuff for aluminum power wires. That's necessary, of course. And then now I start actually doing the other wires. So I'm not going to bore you with doing the entire box. I'll just show you a couple of clips here and there. And here I'm trying to make things logical. I'm pulling wires from the right side of the house and the left side of the house, kind of left side of the breaker box, right side of the breaker box. So kind of made sense of it, and sharing the breakers. Just to reiterate, I have more circuits than is probably necessary, just so I don't share sockets and lights. I know a lot of houses, when they build them, they'll have like 10 circuits, and they're sharing all kinds of lights and sockets together, and some weird combinations of outdoor lights and socket in your bathroom or something. Very strange. They just do it to save money, I'm sure, on wire, and make shorter runs with stuff. I decided to do more of a logical step, so I spent a little more money doing the circuits. But I have pretty much every room is sockets are separated from lights. Lights are, of course, low amperages. Sockets may not be, based on computers and printers and all the other junk that you have with the home offices and stuff like that. So those are the ones we just split everything up just to make sense out of it, and that's where we are at. So this box will be kind of look like it'll be loaded, but it's not, just because there's so many circuits and they're all crazy big. There might be 5-6 lights on a circuit, which is way overkill. But anyway, that's what I did. So I'm trying to be nice and neat. I'm doing I'm tying all the here you go, better video of what I'm actually doing. So the neutrals are going up on the bus on top. The ground is going to the QO ground adapters, and I'm trying to splice everything nice and neat to be out of the way. and you can follow the wires. The one thing I did learn, label, I should have written this down as I was doing them, because I had to go later to write down what each circuit was so I can make labels. I should have done it as I was doing it so I wouldn't have to dig through the wires and figure out what each circuit was. But aside from that, everything went pretty good. So what I find interesting too, every time I put a circuit in, breaker, I wire everything, I tighten it all up, and I kind of retighten as I go. You can see me doing retightening on some of the breakers there. The wires kind of seem to like relax almost if you leave them for a little bit, and I go back and retighten everything. So I've done that several times just to make sure everything's nice and tight, and it should be good to go. But anyway, almost finished with the box. So here I am finishing up the last little bit. This is AC wires. I went and got some 6.2 from Elliott Electric. Found out the max current drain on the AC units is actually 60 amps. Probably don't need 60 amp breaker, but that is what it is. The shutoffs are 60 amps, so everything's in check there. So I'm wiring that up. I did have to go buy the breakers at Home Depot. They're actually typical breakers. They don't have any of the ground fault junk in them. Don't like those too much because they will trip easier. Anyway, AC 2 of those, and then I did forget. I found out this morning when I'm making the video, I forgot to put power for the second air handler. So I got to do that as well. So here are the two shutoffs for the AC. I just ran the wires for that to the panel, and that's pretty much it for the wiring. These are only temporarily hooked in since we're getting outside steel panels put on. This isn't going to be permanent at all. It's just hanging there by a couple of screws. I'm going to cut these wires, fold them in there, and we'll do the final wiring job later. I'm not sure if we'll do it. Well, we'll have to do it after we do the panels because we'll have to take these off when we do the panels. But anyway, that's the gist of that. So, almost done. Hey guys, you here at Blueberry Hill. So, October 19th. So I just finished wiring the two AC units, 60 amp breaker, and then I'm going to add in another 50 here for a welder. I really don't need to do that, but I might just add it to out here. It's probably a bit of a waste of circuit, but I have to use the welder for doing the stairway, the banisters and stuff. I might be able to get away with the laundry one since I'm not really using super high amperage anyway. But the one in the dryer in the utility, that's going to be a 240. That's just a 30 amp setup, but it should be able to do partial with the welding. Definitely don't need a full 50 amp welder on that. We're not going crazy with heat. So anyway, that sums it up. The panel, as you can see, is pretty full. We have a couple of slots left open, 3 basically. And I do have a all panel. You can't see that down here. Yeah, there it is. This is a full panel surge suppressor protector. I have that in the shop as well. Hopefully they work. This one was a little bit of a pain. The top cover popped off on me, and unfortunately I had to glue it back together. Just used PVC glue around the edges, held it with a clamp, and everything's good, and it's staying put. But you see most of the stuff's 20 amp. Everything's off. The main panel at the pole is still off. I'm not going to turn anything on until we have a couple of circuits in the garage that are live, and I might put one somewhere in the hallway just so we have closer access to the tools. That's about it. So we're getting there. Next on the list, I'm flipping back and forth between doing the water lines and starting on the main deck on the master. The water lines are important so we could actually start foaming in, but the deck on the master bedroom is super important so we can do the outside, and until I do that we can't start on the outside. And of course I still have 2 doors to do, so one of them is going to be fairly easy because it's just cutting down a door we got a freebie from a commercial building. 8 panel glass. It looks real nice. It looks pretty expensive actually. And then I'm going to build a door for the main entry because nobody makes them at a reasonable cost. They're very expensive, $3,000 to $5,000, $6,000 for just a stupid door. So we're not paying that kind of money. We'll make it for maybe $500 or maybe $1,000 even if we go crazy. But there it is. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll talk at you later.